This is the all-new 2013 Toyota RAV4 EV. This is the first all-electric SUV available for sale in the US. So if your Leaf just isn't big enough for you, then Toyota has an answer. Let's hop in and take a look. Under the hood, you'll see the first fruits of the budding Toyota-Tesla relationship. We have quite a number of shared parts between the Toyota RAV4 EV and the Model S, we're told. This particular motor produces 154 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque through a single-speed transmission. At just about $10,000 more expensive than a Leaf, you may be asking yourself, is a RAV4 worth it? The reason is back here. We had no problem getting a 60-inch LCD TV into the Nissan Leaf last time we had it, but compared to that, on the inside of the RAV4, you could fit an entire TV store in here. We actually have no reduction of storage space over the gasoline RAV4, which means we still have an under-the-floor cargo compartment in the back of the RAV4. We don't get a 7-seat edition of the RAV4, unfortunately, for the EV market, but we do get these rear seats that fold almost completely flat, really improving the cargo area in the back of the RAV4 EV. Flat. As you can see, this is the largest carry-on you can carry on a domestic flight. Fits back here very nicely. Toyota has retained the reclining rear seats in the RAV4, a nice feature in this segment. This front seat is adjusted for me at 6 feet tall. As you can see, I have a decent amount of legroom left, as well as a decent amount of headroom in the rear of the RAV4. But as I said, these rear seats recline. They actually have a decent recline range too. This is the fully reclined position, and this is the fully upright position, which helps square off the cargo area, allowing you to carry larger items. At $49,000, you may be wondering why Toyota hasn't done anything to improve the interior of the RAV4. It really is a pretty good interior for a vehicle that's in the $20,000 to $30,000 market, but for a $50,000 car essentially, the interior is full of fairly hard plastics. However, as we all know with EVs, you're paying an awful lot for that battery as well as the drivetrain, and that's why this is $49,000, because we have an incredibly large battery pack in this car. During our time here in Newport Beach, we've experienced a range of around 120 miles, which is considerably better than the Nissan Leaf. And the Nissan Leaf will do about 100 miles if you treat it very, very gently, and we have not been treating this RAV4 gently. We get a completely new EV-specific instrument cluster. Over here on the left, we get efficiency displays, so you can see your current and average, essentially fuel consumption. We get an eco coach, which is very similar to other products, tells you how you're accelerating, how you're braking, etc. A little CO2 reduction plant. This actually will grow leaves. You can barely see the outline there. If so, the more gently you're driving the vehicle, the more little branches and leaves you'll be showing. An auxiliary power gauge to show you how much your air conditioning is using of your battery, and your effective driving range. This will help coach you and tell you how far you could go whether you had the air conditioning on or off. Over here we have our usual digital speedometer, and we have our range and battery and power gauges over here. As you can see, our range is about 65 miles, greatly affected by the air conditioning usage. If I turn off the air conditioning, the range will instantly bump up to 87 miles. This is something to remember if you live in a warmer climate. Toyota is using the RAV4 as an opportunity to test out some of their new infotainment options. Down here we have a new touch-sensitive dual-zone climate control. This is very reminiscent of Ford's Ford MyTouch system. These are not real buttons other than the defroster, the mode, rear defogger, and the off button. These are all just sort of touch-sensitive buttons. We have a very nice LCD here with dual-zone climate control. And above it we have an all-new 8-inch Toyota Entune system. This new Toyota Entune system ditches all the physical buttons except for this one home button here. So you can see pressing the home button brings us back to the main menu where we get our usual radio, media, map, apps, phone, etc. The mapping is essentially unchanged from prior Toyota products, so it still uses the same old 2D mapping system here. Fairly responsive, but not exactly as snazzy as some of the later systems from BMW and Ford. Pressing back to the home button, we have our usual Toyota apps here. New app, of course, for the EV is this EV charging station finder, as you'll see here. We get our usual Bing, iHeartRadio, movie tickets, OpenTable, Pandora radio as well. You may be questioning where on earth is the volume knob. Well, I'll show you. That actually is the only downside to this system. In order to adjust the volume, assuming the system was on, you have to press over here in this upper right-hand corner. You'll see this little tune icon there. It's a little sort of music note. And then we get a little slider screen here that's very iPad-based with mute, track forward, backward, fast forward, and rewind. While there are repeater options here on the steering wheel, The driver is really not the problem in this vehicle. The driver will know to use the steering wheel commands. They'll probably know how to use the N-Tune commands here in the center console. It's that front passenger, that grandmother, that aunt, that coworker that you have in the car that wants to adjust the volume and just can't figure out how. Out on the road, the RAV4 EV drives pretty much just like a V6 RAV4. And that's actually what's different about the RAV4 EV. Because if you've driven a Nissan Leaf, the Nissan Leaf doesn't really drive like a regular gasoline car. It drives like an electric car. It's very different in feel. What's different about the RAV4 EV is that it's very powerful, for one. We have 273 foot-pounds of torque available in this vehicle, which is very high, not only just for the EV segment, but for the majority of mainstream vehicles in general. If you think about it, a BMW 328i doesn't even produce this much power from its 2-liter turbo direct injection 4-cylinder engine. With all that power comes definite torque steer at higher speeds, but it's definitely manageable. Steering is as numb as pretty much anything else on the market. Again, you can blame electric power steering for that. And electric power steering is found under the hood of BMWs, Mercedes, and pretty much every other premium auto out there, so there's nothing really different about that either. If you'd like to buy or lease one of these, check out Toyota's website for the list of Toyota RAV4 approved EV dealers coming up soon on their website, and be prepared to spend about $49,000 for the honor of having one. While you may not ever recoup the costs of this versus a regular RAV4 in terms of fuel economy and cost of fueling, you will be able to drive in California's carpool lanes, and how much that's worth to you, I'll let you decide.